Well, morning to everybody. How you doing, Opals? Well, keep up the beautiful work. Today is Wednesday, Parashat Hayeh Sarah. We are continuing learning the laws of Basar Behalav. We hope everyone is doing good. Everyone who needs Refuah shelemah, should have Refuah shelemah. There should be shalom in the world. There should be parnasah for those who need. Those who need a bazra should find the bazra. Those who need children should have children. And Be'ezrat Hashem, Am Yisrael's prayers will be answered. Please, Hashem, in merit of Avraham and Yitzhak, who we're learning about nowadays, they were the kings of prayer. That's why we start off the word, the Amidah, Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, and Hashem should answer all of our tefillot. Be'ezrat Hashem, Yitbarach. Also for the success of Mazal Margalit Bat Hana, Be'ezrat Hashem, Sorot Tobot, Yeshuot V'Nahamot. So there's a question that comes up in halacha. Now, even though we can't see the difference, but halachically there might be a difference, and there are difference of opinions when it comes to the halacha, and that is, what's the law with frying? I'm not asking a nutritionist where they say fry no more. Those days are over, right? Hella, the air fryer, the this fryer, right? But regarding frying with certain things, first of all, some people consider it baking, believe it or not, when it comes to halacha. Because what does baking do? It makes something crispy, and frying also makes something crispy. So some want to say that it has a halacha of baking, believe it or not. Do we hold like them? I remember everyone should live and be well. About 25 years ago, someone asked me to ask Batya, and Batya says we don't hold like that opinion whatsoever. But the opinion is, we know if you take bread and you fry it, it's still hamotzi if it's a big piece. If it's a small piece, it becomes mizonot. That's why you might go to Milah, Shirbusu Mahod B'Yisrael, and if they have regular, good old fashioned French toast where the bread is sliced and it's a whole piece of bread, then that kind of French toast is hamotzi. But if they take it and turn it into slices, into sticks, where each stick, each slice, each strip is smaller than a kazayid 1 ounce, before the frying, not after the frying. After the frying, even chali, you take small bites, right? So before the frying, if you turn it into strips and they're smaller than 1 ounce each, and then you fry it, it becomes mizonot. That makes life a little easier. If you bake it, then it's still hamotzi. That's why if you buy Israeli Melba toast, believe it or not, it's still hamotzi. But if you buy American Melba toast, it's mizonot. What does that mean, right? Well, let's go to the pita chips for a moment. If you have pita chips that you buy, technically you might think that it's hamotzi. Why? Because it's not even fried. It's baked, and they took bread that was hamotzi and they baked it. So is pita chips, you buy a good old bag of Stacy's pita chips, are they mizonot or hamotzi? And believe it or not, the halacha is that they are mizonot. How come? If you take your own bread, and a lot of the women, God bless them, they like to take the leftover chali and turn it into croutons, and because of the nutritionist values of frying, they'll bake it. Believe it or not, baked croutons, even though they're small, they're still hamotzi. So why are Stacy's pita chips mizonot, and the cravings that you make in your house, they're hamotzi? And the answer is, it goes by the intention of the original baking. If you walk into a bagel store and they sell bagel crisps, and it's not cinnamon raisin or egg, they're regular bagel chips. So even though they're baked and they're crispy and they're cracker style, they are still hamotzi, because the original baking was to bake a bagel, which is hamotzi, and then even if you take slices and bake it, it's mizonot. But if the original baking was for the cracker, then the law is it's mizonot. So in Stacy's, they don't go buy the LO pitas from the grocery stores and then decide to make pita chips. They make the pita originally in order to make it into chips, and therefore, since it's crackers now and it's crispy, it becomes mizonot. But that's why I said, believe it or not, in Israel there are certain companies, God bless, that they make 1 million thalis for Friday. They don't sell them all. So now the grocery store, or what they call a makolet, or as my father, he should rest in peace, used to call it a machloket, then they take those thalis and they give them back to the company. What does the company do with them? They slice them and they turn it into melba toast. So since it was originally for holly purposes, even the melba toast is hamotzi and not mizonot. But if you fry it or boil it, then it becomes mizonot if it's less than a kezayit, if it's less than an ounce, like the French toast that we're discussing. If it's strips, small pieces before you fry it, then it becomes mizonot. And croutons, like we said, croutons, then they become hamotzi if they were originally bread, even though they're small pieces. So now back to the frying, which we said, according to some rabbis, frying is considered baking. So they would even hold, if you take the French toast and cut it into small pieces and fry it, they hold it's like you baked it and it's still hamotzi. However, we don't hold like that opinion that it's considered baking, that it's considered something else. It's just good old cooking, as mentioned. So now back to our subject. There are rabbis that say if you take meat and dairy and you fry it and not cook it, they say since frying is different than regular cooking, the halacha is different. However, comes along Rabino Grande Batya, and he tells us it's just like cooking, and therefore, when it comes to meat and dairy, you're not allowed to even fry the meat and dairy, even if it's for a goy. And if it was fried and meat and dairy together, then it's considered. I mean, it's easy for that to happen, believe it or not, because let's say someone took butter and they just threw salami and eggs in there, and that's already the butter is the dairy that you're frying in. However, like we said, you're not allowed to derive benefit from meat and dairy if it was cooked in a way that the Torah tells us. And Hamadiyah says frying is considered as if it was regular cooked, and therefore would be a sin from the Torah if someone did it on purpose, and you can't derive benefit however it was done. What's the law with cooking in the sun? Yesterday we could have used a little cooking sun. Shout out to those who are in the Bahamas right now watching the class live from the Bahamas. Bravo. We have a community that they learn Torah wherever they are. We have some people coming from Eretz Israel live. We have people coming from Italy, France, literally. Bravo to all of you. Keep up the great work and just be safe. Inshallah, next stop, Yerushalayim Habnuya Be'ezrat Hashem. But now back to the sun. If you cook in the sun, what is the law? Well, regarding Shabbat, believe it or not, it's allowed as well, which we'll talk about more when we learn the laws of Shabbat. However, what's the law regarding meat and dairy? Let's say you have a car windshield, heck yeah, and it's burning hot outside. God should keep us safe. And you want to throw on a little meat and dairy tailgating style on your front hood. Is that considered cooking meat and dairy that it would be prohibited from the Torah? And the answer is it's not from the Torah. Cooking in the sun is rabbinic, which means if someone for some reason did do that, you're allowed to derive benefit from it, because only things that are prohibited to cook the way the Torah tells us, that's prohibited to have benefit. But if the Torah doesn't prohibit it, that it's only prohibited from the Chachamim, then you are allowed to derive benefit. And the same thing goes with a mikrogal, a microwave. A microwave also isn't considered halachically cooking. It is prohibited from the Chachamim, and therefore you have to be careful. Some homes might not cover the meat or the dairy, and the microwave should be covered, at least one of them. Someone should always cover meat or always cover dairy, and if you could always cover both, ahlan usahlan. That's why Hashem made saran wrap. Not that you should just get more angry trying to take it, trying to find, trying to cut it, right? Hashem made saran wrap so we could cover the ekel when we put it in the microwave. So even though it's not prohibited from the Torah, it's definitely prohibited from the Chachamim, and therefore we have to be careful in a microwave. Now, when the Torah tells us that meat and dairy is prohibited, the Torah uses the famous words that everybody knows. The reason why everyone knows these words is because we finish a couple of aliyot with these words, and usually the ending of the aliyah, people know because the Hazan emphasizes the words and finishes it off in a melodious way. So everyone knows the words, Lo tevasher gedi b'halev imo. You shall not cook a baby goat in its mother's milk. So some people might want to say a goat is prohibited. What about a cow? What about other things? And the answer is the Torah is just giving an example. Lo diber Torah ela belashon hoveh, the way the people talk. However, as we know, all the beef that we have is considered a problem to cook together with dairy, and it also doesn't have to be the mother's milk. It could be any other milk. However, like we said, it only applies to kosher animals, meaning to say, if someone for some reason does take a little bacon and he has to cook it for someone with butter, so the rule is it's not a sin from the Torah to cook from a pig. Only from a kosher animal is there a problem of meat and dairy. Otherwise, it's just a problem of not kosher. Now, we did speak about in the past cooking, someone working and selling not kosher food. Are you allowed to? There are people that distribute. You have distributors, Jewish distributors that sell all kinds of food out there. So we said the reason why, if it's something you're allowed to have benefit from, then you're allowed to sell it. Meat and dairy, you can't have benefit from. Not kosher wine, you can't have benefit from. But other things are not kosher, but you can have benefit from it. So the guy's in his office, he never even sees any of the food. If you're not going to come to eat the food by mistake, then you're allowed to be a distributor, etc., as we mentioned in the past. So as mentioned, cooking meat and dairy is only a problem with a kosher animal. If it's not a kosher animal, then it's not a problem from the Torah to cook it together, and therefore you're allowed to have benefit if it was cooked together. However, even though a cow that was not slaughtered properly, or a cow that has a hole in its lung, is not considered kosher at all, still you're not allowed to cook it together with dairy, because at the end of the day it has a status of a kosher animal, even though it's not physically kosher. So non-kosher animals, yes. Kosher animals is prohibited no matter what. Now, what's the law? In the old days, things were much different than they are today. God bless. However, in the old days, you could find all kinds of things inside of the chicken. You could find things in the animal, whatever it might be that you're eating. Even not to talk, of course, about any certain country, but it's possible when you're learning in yeshiva in a certain country, you get yourself a hot dog and you pull out feathers. So I said the first time, okay, it's not the end of the world. It happens somehow, some way. But then I tried it again a little while later, and a feather came out. I said, hasta la vista, we're going vegan. If you find feathers in a hot dog, that means the rabbi slaughters it, takes the whole chicken with the feathers, with the thing, lehodod, lehalel, chucks it in a grinder, and then you get the sausage, you get a hot dog. I'll see you. Wouldn't want to be here. Let's go with Morningstar for those hot dogs. But anyway, back to the subject. If you have a chicken, someone slaughters a chicken, and they find an egg inside the chicken that the hen didn't lay, obviously, and all of the veins and the items are still around it. Imagine an egg is a whole world. Hashem created it. I mean, just when the Democrats were in charge for a couple of months, the eggs were astronomical, but all our lives, eggs were for peanuts. You get eggs and you could cook it 3 million different kinds of ways, and each egg is amazing. As a matter of fact, listen to where the shell comes from. Look how amazing Hashem is. Yishtabach Shemo La'ad. You know, the Mishnah says if someone's in the middle of learning Torah and they see something and they stop their learning and they say, hey, look at that, the Gemara says, not a good thing, believe it or not, the Mishnah says. But Rabbi Miller, he should rest in peace. He should be a blessing for all of us. He says, if you're doing it to be marveled by the greatness of Hashem, then you do stop learning to talk about the greatness of Hashem, because sometimes, even though we take things for granted, we see an egg shibihueh, right? So think about an egg. Number one, the yellow of the egg, the yolk, is not the kid. There, if you look at a yolk, you'll see a tiny little dot on top of the yolk, and that dot is, if it's fertilized, turns into a chick, and the chick has food, it eats the yolk. That's why it comes out all yellow. If you have a guy drinking carrot juice all day, his face and his hair starts to turn orange. How you doing? So the chick eats that as the food. Yishtabach Shemon. When we were kids, it was possible to open an egg and find a dead chick inside, believe it or not. I remember as kids, that's why years ago, when, I know we're going off tangent, but you guys can handle Baruch Hashem. And when we were kids, if you found blood in the egg, you had to throw out the whole egg. But today, if you're not buying the organic farm stuff, if you're buying regular industrial eggs, you do not have to throw out the egg if there's blood inside. You just take a little blood, and the blood that's in there, and throw it out, because marit ayin, but not because it's not kosher. The old days, it was a chick forming if there was a rooster around the hen house. But today they just have the hens with heated benches, and they're popping out eggs. So since there's no rooster, they can't be fertilized. You won't find the chick in the egg, and the blood makes is not regular blood being formed from a chick to a chick, but rather you just take it out for marit ayin purposes. So that's number one about the egg. And then another amazing thing about the egg, Rabbi Miller says, Yishtabach Shemo, where does the shell come from? Do you know that when you see chickens, they're always running around, right? That's why Rocky, they tried to catch the chicken when he was training. How you doing? But anyway, they're running around. Why? Believe it or not, they don't have a digestive system like us. Thank you, Hashem, Yishtabach Shemo La'ad. So they eat food. They don't have anything crushing the item. They don't have teeth to crush. They just have a beak, and they're eating anything that comes their way. So what do? They eat pebbles. They swallow pebbles, and then they run around, and the pebbles break the food that's in the stomach, and then it could digest. But what happens to those pebbles? Believe it or not, it also gets disintegrated after a while, and the egg that's in there, it makes the shell of the egg from those pebble powder. Yishtabach Shemo. Is that normal? Yishtabach Shemo. You look at one egg, okay, we eat an egg. You see Rocky taking today's Rocky Day. You see him popping 2 eggs into a glass, or 20 eggs, and drinking it. Well, when you think of an egg, think of Hashem. When you think of anything in nature, you think of Hashem, and you say, Marabu Masech Hashem. So back to the subject, with the finding the egg inside of the chicken. Is that considered meat or dairy? Can you have your beda jibin, or you can eat it with dairy? Now, we have to remember that the actual chicken itself is really only from the Chachamim prohibited to eat with dairy. But from the Torah, you could have chicken together with dairy. So now we don't, of course, obviously, because the Chachamim said no. So the egg that comes out, the rabbis didn't even decree on that. But if you find it inside the chicken after slaughtering, what's the law? So the rule is, if the white and the yellow, meaning it's a complete egg, even though it's surrounded by all the veins and things that are in there, still you pull it out, you could have that egg together with cheese. However, if only the yellow is complete and not the white, in Hebrew we call the yellow chelmon and the white chelbon. How do you remember? Chelmon sounds like limon, which is yellow, and chelbon is halib, is halav, is abyad. is white. So that's how you remember the white and the yellow. So if it's a complete egg, you're allowed to eat it with dairy. But believe it or not, if it's only the yellow and not the white, then you would have to you wait 6 hours technically, and also not eat it together with dairy. We'll stop here for today. I'm very proud of all of you. May the Torah be a blessing for all of you and good things. Have the greatest day. Besorot Tobot, Yeshuot, V'nehamot. May we hear good news today and every day for Am Yisrael and the entire world. Take care. Bye.